Thank you for joining us on today's edition of the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okos, your host on the program. Today, we'll x-ray the state of the nation and, of course, talk along the lines of the issues that are dominating discussions and the level of response by those in charge. First, let me welcome our panelist. Barrister Matthew Dagese is a legal practitioner, obviously, and is also a public affairs commentator, a public affairs analyst. Barrister Matthew, many thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, too.
We also have the Assistant Secretary, NBA, Lion Branch, Benin, Barrister Dennis Osaitin. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
We have Roy Orivabo, is a public affairs commentator and is also a politician. Roy, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let me begin with Barrister Matthew. The perception in some quarters is that the country as it is today looks like a country on autopilot, where there are questions surrounding the level of response of those in charge to issues that are coming on the front burner. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Autopilot illustration is even a mild way to put it. It's worse than that. Autopilot means there's a presumption that it's automated. It has a direction, and it could land properly if the mechanisms are functioning without the human person. But in this case, there is no human pilot, and there is no animated arrangement. It's just like a balloon floating, being tossed about by the wind. Not the type that is programmed to land at a predetermined destination, but the type that is just picked up by the wind, a hurricane, and is being tossed about. If anybody is unfortunate to be a passenger on board that kind of arrangement, I think the best song to sing is "This World Is Not My Home," because it could crash anytime. The country as we are now is in the total state of decay in terms of infrastructure. No roads anywhere. I don't know of any nation that is not at war, that you can't drive around. You can't drive 20 kilometers without wishing you never made the trip. It is horrible traveling around Nigeria by road now. Then we're not talking of electricity. Power is almost a nightmare. So if there's leadership and there's no corresponding responsibility to deliver the duty of leadership, I think autopilot is too mild a term. It is in a state of outright hopelessness and confusion. That is where we are today. And if we must get out of this situation, I think there's a need for total overhaul.
Okay. Let me come to Barrister Osaitin. What are your thoughts along this line? I mean, those who have these perspectives expressed, are they just crying wolf?
Well, they may not be far from the truth, because the indices are there. You know, this is not a country, this is not a change that a lot of persons wanted to see or they voted for. You know, like you said, you cannot travel around this country today by road. Everybody is now working very hard to go to your destination, maybe by flights. You know, it's not a reflection of how prosperous we are, but it's a reflection of the inherent danger or the opportunity cost to the citizenry. So for those who believe that the country is in a state of disrepair or an autopilot, like I said, they are just being being mild or just putting it mildly. You know, if there are worse adjectives to describe the situation that we are today, I think we are currently in a state of anarchy. You know, there's no rule of law. The institutions are being bastardized. Our democracy is on a backward, reverse trend. So I believe that those who have these perceptions may not be very far from the truth, judging by what and the facts and figures that we have on ground today in Nigeria.
Right. The indices on the ground, do they clearly reflect this line of reasoning, as it were?
Well, depending on where you decide you find yourself and how you are also evaluating the situation. You know, but one thing remain the fact that we can't run away that things are really very bad in this country. But I also believe there is hope, because we are seeing some efforts like what happened in China some years back, where they were trying to revive their economy. They closed the border and was able to yield results. As we are talking now, China is a country that everybody wants to upload with. It's a country that people want to go and enjoy themselves, and they also copy in terms of how they have managed the economy, their own economy, and also they are affecting the economy of the world. And very just so you can see the numbers, the resources that they have given to Nigeria to borrow. And you can see how societies some countries are running to China today. It is because there was a deliberate effort by the government. And that is where we also find ourselves in this country. The lock and the close down of borders to some of us is a welcome development. We must also look inward within our house that what can we really do for ourselves as a country. It is a pathetic situation that the 21st century, as we are still talking, that Nigeria as a country, people are still importing to peak to this country. And if you go to my village, the numbers of bamboo stick we have there is enough to take care of the whole country in terms of coming out with two peaks. Therefore, when you look at those deliberate efforts by the government to say, what can we do? Over the years, the system have not been working. Nigeria have not really been so happy, have not been blessed in terms of leadership management of this country. And that have been our greatest problem, because the foundation of this country there has never been foundation for this country. They have just been a mere garbage out. Then we all see ourselves as an opportunity for people to enrich themselves. And once any particular joins the government, people believe it's their turn and they want to enjoy it. That has been the mentality of this country. That has been the mentality of our leadership. And that has also been the general orientation of us as also been over the years. Therefore, you cannot build on nothing and expect it to stand, But my fear in all this is, even as the government is also trying in terms of closing the border, my fear in all this is that, one, there must be a policy direction. One, we expect that after the opening of this border, as you have closed it down, there is an effort so that in another 2 years we will not be regretting why we embark on this mission. Specifically, you look at and listen to the rice millers, the rice farmers. They are saying that they are doing well. The poultry farmers are saying they are doing well because of the. I think those are some of the gains one can easily see, but the sustainability is also an issue I'm also very important about, because we are aware in this country that once a government takes a stand of policy, before you know it tomorrow, they also somersaulted to another angle. And that is the reason why the high level of inconsistency is in policy formulation and management in this part of the world. But my joy is that, one, there's an effort. Okay. And all of us have now unanimously agreed that we must all look inward. Okay. What can we get for ourselves? And some of us are very comfortable now eating the local rice. And that was the local rice that we were even growing up in the government. Local rice was our favorite. We are looking at that Sunday, that Saturday, that Christmas, that we want to eat that local rice. It gave us a sense of belonging there. But over the years, we abandoned all those things and we start believing that it's the foreign rice that will take us there, without even considering the implication. They are preservative mechanism. We don't even know how they come about those rice. And Nigeria is a country where the border is also very porous. There is no regulatory system that will be able to regulate what is coming in. If anything we see here, we just consume it. And that is the reason why life expectancy in Nigeria is about 40-42. Because there is no proper sanction, there is no proper mechanism on ground to regulate what is coming to this country. Anything anybody brings from any parts of the world, we say once it's consumable, Nigeria will quickly rush it. There is no proper investigation. Okay. And that has been an issue. And that is the reason why Nigeria today now, the level of illness that are common in this country is because of all those forests that are coming that they are not being regulated. Looking inward, we are not discovering ourselves. It's good. I watching the news that one of the states that they are now producing toothpick. I say, okay, that's a welcome development. Let's start from somewhere. Okay. There is hope. Okay. Let us not paint a picture that
it's a hopeless situation. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Let me just leverage on the points that you raised to drive the discussion to the next stage, which is a focus on the economy. I mean, the present administration has, for some people, made tremendous progress by shutting down the borders, never done before. And that seems to be a major boost for those who are into agricultural production. Isn't this a hopeful situation, Pastor Matthew Adayose?
As colorful as the proponents of border closure want to paint it, it's actually a painted sepulchre.
Why do you say that?
The inside is, what is contained inside is rotten. It's a mark of administrative lack of focus. A system built around institutions does not operate the way Nigeria is being operated. Not this command and control arrangement, like a military totalitarian arrangement. Let me ask you this question. We have customs, we have immigration. What is their job specification? Is it not to control what is coming and what is going out? Shutting down the border is an admission that the decision has failed. Immigration can no longer control who is coming and who is going out. Custom has failed to regulate inflow and outflow of goods and human persons. Is that why we are celebrating that we have a failed institution? Our nation is exhibiting some indices of failure as a people. You don't have to shut the border to ban a particular goods from coming in. All you need to do is to prohibit it. When there's a contraband, it shouldn't enter the country. The custom will seize it. There was never a time that the border was open to admit contraband. That has never been the policy. Okay. So when that policy of no contraband should come in, it already has been in place, and you are now formally closing the border, what are you telling us? That the system has failed. It is that system failure that we are applauding now. It's not actually an administrative vision, no. Because if you say local rice should be patronized, I know of a fact that foreign rice has been under the prohibition list long before now. Even foreign used clothes and some items, they have been itemized for no importation. That has been the policy. So when we now wake up and say we should close the border to achieve the same purpose, it means we have failed to achieve this through the routine and regular arrangements. And as a nation, we should be ashamed that we cannot stop things from coming in unless we go and put soldiers at the border. It is an indictment of our custom service, indictment on immigration service. Before now, we'll be asking, how do Boko Haram get their arms supplies? How do these foreign bandits have easy access to Nigeria and out of it with their herds of cattle from foreign lands?
Yeah, people have talked about.
Yes. When you say porous border, if you now shut it, does it become less porous? If you have no personnel to man it the way it is, under the excuse that it is porous, have you gotten aliens now to now block the porous border? You have not increased the capacity, which means in any case, this border closure is a theoretical statement. In practice, the border remains porous. Those things they claim are not coming in the data, they are still coming in at night.
What's your evidence?
Are we not eating foreign rice? I don't know in our markets.
What's your evidence?
They are still in the menu in all our big hotels. I tell you, I do not think there is absence of foreign rice in the villa, sort of villa, as we speak now.
Have you been there to check that out?
I put them under a burden to prove that they don't eat foreign rice in Asoro.
Because you've not been there. The burden of proof is on
if we can find it in our hotels,
yes.
It's in our markets.
Yes.
Presumption is that it is in Asoro.
But those may have been old stocks. Is it that possible?
Old stock.
Yes.
How long will the stock last? Because we have shut the border for some time now. I bet you we still have foreign rice in our markets. It's in our table. And for my friend Roy was saying the rice millers are smiling to the banks.
Yeah.
Poultry farmers are happy. The question I keep asking is, what stopped Nigeria from exporting this rice? The best way to deal with balance of trade is to increase your productivity, where you have comparative advantage. We have a lot of arable lands. Our rice grow well. We have a variety of rice in the country that they are doing very well. It does well on our soil. Agbede rice was there. Ekoma rice is there. Abakaliki, they are there. Why are we, if we are serious in terms of policy formulation and execution, We should be driving at rice exportation.
Okay, let me proceed there.
And I tell you, the
Yes.
cost of local rice is very expensive. It's higher than foreign rice.
Yes.
Which means we have no comparative advantage. You cannot stop. You cannot stop what you can produce easily, cheaper. It's economic suicide for you to say what costs you ₦1 million to produce, you must be forced to buy it when you can have an alternative of less than 500 to buy the same item. Okay. The masses are made to suffocate.
All right, let me proceed there, Pastor Matthew. By society, look at it from this perspective, which is that the Nigeria Customs Service has come out to say the revenue generation capacity and the revenue profile of the country has improved tremendously since the border closure. And they have also gone ahead to say this border closure would remain until countries like Benin Republic, Niger, and some other things, some other countries do the needful to respect their own part of security measures to forestall this free flow of things, illegal things into the country. Isn't that a major economic success of this present administration?
Well, I do not have, as we speak here, I don't have the figures as to whether or not there has been a tremendous increase in terms of tariffs or revenue generated by the custom, as the case may be.
Okay.
But the question we should be asking is, why are our business people or business or importers choosing Benin Republics or the neighboring country and their ports as opposed to importing directly to Nigerian ports? These are the questions. It's an issue of failure of the institution. So if our borders, if our ports, the operations there are seamless, nobody want to import to Benin. But today, go to Apapa, go and see the state of the roads from Apapa.
The gridlock.
To even start with, look at the state of the road or the gridlock in Lagos. Why are we not patronizing on airports? Why are we not patronizing the ports in Warri? The ports in Calabar, why are we not patronizing them? The inland dry port in Edo State, what has happened to it as we speak? So, for me, we are just trying to, go round in circles. We are trying to flog a dead baby and then continue to impoverish the Nigerian citizen. To what, right now, we are saying that we have increased our revenue generation by the custom. We are still going to be paying increase in VATs. All the charges, the cost of doing business in Nigeria has tripled. So if we say that we have closed border and then things have improved internally, why are we still paying so much? Why is the cost of production locally still very high? Why don't we have power? So for me, the government, they are not being sincere to themselves. They're just trying to continue to give us figures and bandy figure out there. But the reality on ground does not correlate with the figure that they are that they are portraying in the press. So the custom must come out. Just recently, the importers for the sellers of vehicles in Lagos, they are complaining that the custom simply went to their car shops and shut it down for over a month. And what was their reason? That they were underpaying custom duties, that they underpaid. The question is, who cleared these goods?
Who did the assessment in the first place?
Who did the assessment in the first place?
Same custom.
We left custom, we went to their car shop and they shut it down for 1 month. And these people, they are trying to pay tax, pay their workers, and then pay their own bills in this same country. And then we say we have increased our IGR, we have increased revenue. At what expense? People are complaining, people are, they are crying daily, and we keep saying that revenue has increased, revenue has increased. The revenue that you are increasing, to whose benefits is it?
Making the cow.
So for me, the customs must come out clean. There must be a total overhaul, a reform in that system, in the ports.
Okay.
It must operate seamlessly. Until that is done, this closure of border will be, counterproductive.
Okay, let me just reference one of the issues that you raised, that why do importers, for example, prefer the illegal borders to bringing their goods through the registered or the statutory channels? I think it's probably to cut corners. What do you make of that? Cut corners to get goods. Because I saw a video where you had almost over 1,000 trucks on the line and they were just stopped at the border. I mean, you understand the question I'm trying to
Very
do?
well.
Yes, so let me get your perspectives on that.
Very quickly, I must tell you this because I've interacted with a lot of business people and
Okay.
all that, and they tell me categorically that the services in the ports, for example in Benin, is cheaper, is more efficient, more transparent than that in Nigerian ports. So they rather import to Benin and then bring it by road to Nigeria.
Legally to Nigeria.
Legally, yes. By the ECOWAS Treaty.
Okay.
Freedom of goods, movement or passage of goods and services
Okay.
is supposed to be free by the ECOWAS Treaty.
Okay.
By the ECOWAS, within the ECOWAS borders and country.
Yeah.
So right now, closing down on the borders, is that not a violation of the ECOWAS Treaty? And right now, Nigeria just recently signed the African Intercontinental Trade Agreement.
Free trade.
So if we are saying that we want to open up, open up the borders and then engender free trade between African countries, is this closure of border not counterproductive or not, contrary to that, that policy? So for me, those borders or those, ports in other countries are not more efficient. The infrastructure is there. Why are we not doing the same thing? If you want to import to Nigeria compared to importing to Benin, it is far cheaper going by the records, by the indices on ground. So for me, those countries have a more efficient system compared to Nigeria. So the businessman, the average businessman who wants to make profits from his business would rather import to Benin and then bring it by road to Nigeria. That doesn't mean it is illegal. Not at all. So the activities of custom officer, for example, in the Benin Lagos road, for me, those things are they are wholly unnecessary because you were there at the ports, you were there at the border. How did these goods still find their way to our shops? Before you not start, overreacting
Breaking into
already
shops.
inside the marketplace.
Okay.
So Nigerian Nigerian government must now look inward beyond just using these hard dock measures. They must now engender holistic reforms by way of legislations and then policy directions. My friend here mentioned policy somersault. That has been the bane of our development. So we must now, by way of specific legislations and then policy reforms that are directed as engendering sustainable growth, as opposed to this knee-jerk approach that we are currently employing.
Okay, let's get your take now, Prince Roy Orewabo. You obviously you are in tune with this border closure because, in your opinion, there have been some tremendous gains that are seeable, tangible, feelable. Your question or your concerns has to do with the sustainability. And in line with that, have we demonstrated the character that this is a sustainable policy in terms of ensuring that the average man on the street does not feel the brunt? I mean, we know what the cost of a bag of rice, for example, is at the moment. What are your thoughts?
Yes, that is it. I said, if you recall, that the issue of plan is an issue we cannot remove. We talk about how do we move forward in this country. Before I come to your question, that my brother Adam said also, he talks about the project. We use very many adjectives to qualify the situation, as if even very just now, the United States, their border, there's a very strong wall they are building between U.S. and Mexico. That is a country, United States. And you also agree with me that in this part of the world, our border is one of the most porous borders on earth. We don't even have the resources to even build the wall. I hope we are also aware. We don't have that resources. Look, see the kind of wall that's been built in the U.S. between Mexico and U.S. And has been financed by U.S. government under the leadership of Trump. The Nigeria don't have that ability. We don't have that resources to do that. What do we do to manage our border? First of all, we are all aware that over the years that the institution of this system, all the institutions have failed us. They have all failed us. We have a system that says, well, for how long shall we continue to remain like this? What do we do? Let's close this border. Then we go back and look at what can we really do? Closing of border is not a permanent solution. It's just a preamble to what the government will do. I am not the mouthpiece of the government. You should get it right. But I'm talking as a man who loves this country. As a man who believes that the suffering in this country today is overbearing. Therefore, the only way forward is for we to be encouraging the government to do what is really good and will be profitable to all of us. We cannot continue be lamenting and we are not willing to do what is right. The situation is bad. Everybody knows that. Nothing has changed in terms of the electricity, in terms of road networking. Nothing has changed, but government cannot continue to fold the hand. They must do something. On the strength of that, I am saying that the closure of this border, what makes it to be very unique, is for the government to not go back and say, what are we not doing right?
Okay.
And you are seeing the reaction from the Benin Republic. We are seeing the reaction from Nigeria. Even Ghana, we are also seeing the harsh reaction from them. You know, what that shows to me is that they also know the kind of trade they have been dealing with Nigeria. Even in Thailand, you can see most of the rice mills in Thailand, they are gradually going down because Nigeria have always been their shop. It's the only market they want. Anything they are they take it to this country. But nothing has been working in this country. That is the fact. Nothing has been on ground. And that is the reason why it's now a burden on any leader who comes to lay a foundation for this country. And I will keep on re-echoing that we need to lay a foundation for this country. Without foundation, we cannot go anywhere.
Is that foundation being laid now, in your opinion?
Yes, Lord. The way out is that we don't have the resources to build our border in terms of war.
Okay.
But what we can do is that we now look at what we look at the Africa approach, Nigeria approach. That first of all, let's close out the system. And you also agree with me that the custom don't supposed to be at North the road. They are not supposed to be at Ekadolo here. They are supposed to be at the
They're in our streets, in our shops.
They are in the shop, in the street. I was talking to my
kitchen.
That how the customs came to our stores and just force it open and start saying you must. It is because the system have since collapsed. The institution have since they have failed woefully. They are now resorting to that. Now, we are seeing a system that is saying, now let us go back to the drawing board. Let's draw a way for this country. How do we...
So we're back to the drawing board.
We are back to the drawing board.
All right, let me pursue this. We can run fast. If you just join us, you're still on to Politics Today. It's reaching you live on independent television and radio. Of course, any moment from now, we are hoping to get a live signals from what is happening in Okada for us to join that live studio to bring you the convocation activities of Igbenedion University, Okada. That's coming up any moment from now. But while we wait for the signals to come, we'll continue with our conversation. Yes, I know you're itching to respond or react to the issues, but I'm conscious of time.
Yes.
A major issue that has been at the front burner in the last couple of days is the issue of the famous, or otherwise, but I don't want to use say the other way, but the famous hate speech bill, which of course is proposed by one Senator, Sabi, and there have been reactions on this. In fact, former military president Ibrahim Babangida has reacted, and so many others. But there are also those saying that this is what is happening globally. You regulate social media. America is doing it, China is doing it, Russia is doing it. So what's wrong with Nigeria following this global trend, Pastor Matthew?
The cyber crime law has already been in place. If a senator has a law sense of duty and he doesn't remember that he's supposed to make laws.
No, let's not get personal.
No, I'm trying to draw an illustration.
You can say it's lost sense of duty.
I didn't mention, I said, yes. Assuming a particular senator, man by accident has lost a sense of duty, and it's not conscious of what he's supposed to be doing again, decide to be remaking law that is already made. That is worrisome. Hate speech law or bill is unnecessary. I have just told you that it's a cyber crime act that is already in place. It takes care of all the regulatory arrangements of social media. So for a senator to now wake up one day and delve into remaking the law that is already made, I don't know where that one is.
So what are your other misgivings about the hate speech bill?
Hate speech bill is a meaningless thing to say. It has no meaning, it has no, there is no word to describe it. It's a mark of joblessness. That's the only way I look at it. Because you can't even define what hate means. Hate is an abstract thing. You can't point and touch it. So what you hate, I might like. What you like, I might hate. When you now make hate speech bill, certain speech that you would not like to hear might be very useful to me and to other persons. In fact, the majority will want to hear that thing. So how do you now make a law to protect your very myopic interest as opposed to the general interest of the happiness of the majority? For instance, the man who is doing the wrong thing doesn't want to be told the truth that he's doing the wrong thing. To him, it sounds like hatred. But to those who are victims of that wrong act, they want it to be told to the man who is perpetrating the wrong act that this thing you are doing is bad, it's an ugly act. So if you not punish the man who is saying the truth to protect the man who is doing the wrong thing, that is what hate speech act suggests, intend to achieve, to silence, to hush free speech. It boils down to clamping down on free speech, which is guaranteed by the Constitution of this country and by universal declarations. America is not, they are not tampering with the freedom of speech or free speech. Social media regulation is different from hate speech. Hate speech is a very amorphous term that want to decorate totalitarianism in the garb of regulation. You don't regulate what is not yours. Freedom of speech is inalienable right of an individual, of a people. You have no right as a leader or somebody elected to now begin to tinker with it, to suit your own agenda, to do what you like and nobody should say anything.
Okay.
It's not going to work.
Okay.
We're going to resist it.
All right, Mr. Saiti, yeah. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
Is this an infringement on the fundamental human rights of Nigerians step by step? Legacy has proceeded.
Right away, even I don't need to be a lawyer to even know that that bill is dead on arrival. You know, without the hate speech bill or law in place, we already have records. Over 49. We have persons who have been thrown into detention. Majority of them are journalists who are involved in investigative journalism. So for those of us who believe that freedom to information is supposed to be a fundamental human right, as even taking the freedom of expression to a next level, access to information, to public information and records ought to be a fundamental human right. So if you're not saying that people who share contrary opinion, contrary view, who are critical of government and policies are to be accused of spreading hate speech, then that law should be condemned root, stem, and branches. So I believe very strongly, yes, is there a need for us to regulate social media or its activity and usage? Why not? There are series of laws, like you mentioned, the Cyber Crimes Act, Section 34, thereabout, makes specific provisions as to what is to be done when you deploy social media or the internet to wrong use. It's there.
The law of libel is there.
The EFCC Act, the law of libel, the thought of they are all there. They are there in our jurisprudence to make adequate provisions for the wrong use of your right of expression, as the case may be. But to now specifically now mention that you want to now criminalize a certain segment of the country because they owe more or less a justified opinion or view about another segment as hate speech, for me, like he said, it's a development that we must condemn. So for that senator who has sat with these people and then want to bring such a bill, I'm glad that he has listened to the voice of reason.
Okay.
He has been, from the very beginning, he had a very strong point of view, but he has watered it down now. For example, the punishment I imposed of the death on our life now.
Death by hanging.
Death by hanging. He has now reviewed that punishment.
Okay.
He has now also, tried to tinker with some aspects of that bill. I would advise him from here, it's a very free legal advice to him. He should wrap that bill and throw it to the
court away. That's where it belongs.
Because history will never be kind to him. It is there that we have never had our rights as human beings so bastardized like they're doing in this current National Assembly.
Okay.
So I would advise him quickly to jettison that idea. Rather, he should look for ways to apologize to Nigerians for making this failed attempt to guard their opinion and then restrict their right to freedom of expression.
Prince Roy Orivabo. Now, my concern is the fact that I think this has also been expressed by some other people. The bill didn't see the light of the day, I think, in the 8th Senate. Isn't that something for us to ponder on, that we're having it again in the 9th Senate? Yeah.
Of course. When I heard about the bill again, to me, I was wondering again that why not shall we continue to be dancing around with a particular issue. To me, it was never a serious matter. You know, why Nigeria Senate, why are they so interested about this bill? What is the important? Of which benefit to you and I? You know, to me, it's just a mere wickedness from the pit of hell. It have no basis. You know, in democracy, people should be able to express themselves. And if you even look at the details of it, how are they now going to define, who now define what constitutes hate speech? You know, and I was living out this morning, and my wife was telling me that, oh God, money never died. I said, that is hate speech. Is that the kind of
Because you don't like it. It hurts your feelings.
Yes! Is that how they want to define it? You know, because they are related. You can, as an opposition, you can be campaigning and say that is a hate speech.
That's it.
We order for your arrest. And, you know, we have many issues that is bothering us in this country. One is the issue of looting. I expect them to even be more bothered that those who are looting this country, if you are called, you should die by hunger. Those of them will celebrate them. You look at the welfare of the people. As a Nigeria, with the resources we are getting, let us also enjoy at least a minimal level of welfare from government. That the man came from nowhere and he said what he wants to do is to come with I believe that he just want to be...
To assassinate Nigerians.
He just want to be on the news. So that people will say...
For the wrong reasons.
On a very wrong way.
Okay.
You know, I cannot see how he intend want to push that.
Okay.
Even if I have the opportunity of even seeing Mr. President, I will tell you that bill is one of the bills that is even now reducing this government. It's one of those bills that make people not to be taking this administration serious. And that's the reason why I believe that it's from the pit of hell. I don't know where that man formulated it. Even in formulation, it's even a social crime. Even for him to come and implement it again, it is a mere wickedness.
Maybe he's also hate speech in a sense.
Of course, even for him coming
He is the most hated senator right now for that attempt.
Yes, the bill itself is...
He has attracted hatred to himself now. That is the end result.
Okay, our studio lines will be open shortly, so you can also call and be part of the conversations on politics today on independent television and radio. Please ensure that when you do call, be as civil as possible, and make sure that you give your views and opinion without casting aspersion on anyone, both for those in the studios and those outside the studios. The views that you're expressing is entirely yours. We need to establish that even the views expressed by our panelists here is theirs. It's not the opinion or the position of ITV Radio. Now, as we begin to take the course, we'll interject that with some thoughts on the rule of law and its practice under the current administration. It looks like a test case for it is the Omoyele Showare's case, granted bail, but it's still being held by the DSS. I recall recently that the judge that is trying the case threatened to jail the Director General of DSS. Our panelists here will give some thoughts along those lines. But let's get some of the calls coming in. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, then go ahead with your contribution. 052-290-573. 052-290-573. 052-290-573. That's the studio number. Dial it and let's get your thoughts and opinion on it. We have our first caller on the line. Hello, caller. Good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Bishop Bisa, good morning. Good morning, Bishop Bisa. Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, I will suggest that the youth in the whole state, that any time there's any form of election, even if it's for the council, that next youth should vote for him. Because that professor is according to the notorious thing. How do you say on earth that for somebody taking his mind, based on that, you now say that person should be, if you have the person is done by hand. Meanwhile, the losers of our Nigerian economy, people who have lost billions of naira, that are making it possible for us to get to good, as a result of that, people die on our road. There is no necessity, no food hospital, no plan. You allow them to be moving freely, no necessity. So, as far as I'm concerned, so what will consider to be hate speech. May not be hate speech as far as you are concerned. So that bill is already there on arrival. That's concerning the issue of the social disorder. I personally support it. If immigration and the custom we have, if they are not doing their job well, let the government do the issue.
Okay.
And that's what they are doing now.
Okay.
People are complaining now that the price of local rights or the Nigerian rights, I don't want to call it local rights, because the rights are here. It's supposed to be like that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you that next year, next year, the price of local rights will clamp down. Because when people now go into rice farming, and the more rice, more Nigerian rice, that will make the price to pay on the new price.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bishop Iso. Bishop Iso, thank you. Thank you. Okay, just before we take the next call, let's get our thoughts on the rule of law, particularly what seems to be like a test case now with the Omoyole Shaware's case with the DSS. I'd like to get your thoughts, Barrister Daiso.
The system, democracy as a system of government is built on the rule of law. And rule of law is built on the Constitution, which is the ground norm in every society. Conformity with the provision of the Constitution and the laws, the extant laws of the land, is what makes democracy to thrive. And the appropriate body to interpret the law is at the courts of law. So wherein you have a competent court of the land granting a bail to a person who has been sent to detention, like Shaware's case is, and you have a DSS, an agency of the executive, saying they will not release or comply with the court directive or order ordering the release on bail of Shaware, having met all the terms of the bail conditions, is an aberration to the rule of law and democracy worldwide. It has no explanation. Nobody can explain it why we have found ourselves in this situation where DSS now become a parallel court of law. When the court decides, DSS overrules, and we are pretending that all is well with us. We are talking about border closure, but this one, I think they are closing the borders of our rights. DSS cannot now be picking and choosing which court's order to obey or disobey. The same courts they approached to get the order to detain Shaware for a very long time, and they were very pleased with that order. It was granted them. That same court is now saying, now release him. They are saying no, he has not met certain conditions put in place by them, not the court. Court does not grant bail and give condition for bail. Then they leave it for an external body to also act or remove from the condition. Okay. It is not done. Okay. DSS is in outright breach of the Constitution. They are acting in contempt of the court of the land.
Okay, so let's get more calls. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and then let's get your contribution. If you just join us, it's still Politics Today on independent television and radio. Caller, we know you're there. Hello, caller. Good morning. Yes, good morning. What's the name, sir?
Peter from Bo.
Okay, Peter, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
It's unfair to Nigerians. I feel that every human being has the right to expression. If you take that away from a human being, you've taken all. You are making the person like a water. One should be able to express themselves. The government should do everything to ensure that that deal is shown out quickly. Okay. It's not helping the image of the country. It's not helping the government. This is not in the 21st century. That's me. No. People should be allowed to express themselves. It's just like when people call into the program, like you always say, you will not allow the person to start cancel and passion.
Yeah.
This person will not even take it in the first place.
Absolutely.
So where's the hate coming from? Please, we should allow Nigerians to express themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your views. Barrister Saitin, yeah. rule of law using Omoyele Showore's case?
Well, I empathize with Sowore. I also empathize with the legal community, in fact, the justice subsector in Nigeria. As of today, like I said, we have gone 10 years backward into our development as a country. Like I say, I really cannot explain how a court will give a valid order, a subsisting order, release a citizen of a country who is pretending to be under a democracy, and then an agency of government, in this instance the SSS. I'm very careful not to call them DSS, because people have argued that there is no such body called the DSS. That by the law establishing that agency, they are referred to as the State Security Service. So how they metamorphosed to becoming DSS is still a mystery. So maybe that's why they have been acting with such impunity. They think they can, they are above the law, but there's no law establishing them. So as of today, some Nigerians have argued that the DSS as a body is a body that is operating outside the law, because there is no law establishing them in the first place. So they are illegal, contractments by some persons who want to further an inordinate desire. So I'm calling on the DSS this morning, or the DSS this morning, as the case may be, or the federal government this morning, to obey a valid court judgment, because when the judiciary is being bastardized, when the rule of law has been thrown to the dustbin, we certainly don't have a democracy. So if we are operating democracy, let us obey the tenets of democracy. And if we are not, we should also be told, so that this pseudo-democracy that we are operating is not helping us, it's not doing us any good in the Committee of Nations. So I'm calling on the institutions to obey the rule of law and then release Sowore, so that we can then begin to celebrate this democracy that we are working hard for.
052 570. Just look at the number on the screen, and then you get the number and be part. Yes, 052 290 573. That's the studio number. We have you live on Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio. Hello, Kola. Good morning. Yes, tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, my name is Famous, and I'm calling from Oluku.
Famous, go ahead with your contributions.
I just want to contribute to the hate speech.
Yes, go ahead.
You cannot give us freedom of speech and still take responsibility back by giving us the hate speech. So that's the problem we are facing. You cannot say we have freedom of speech, and you are saying the hate speech is here. What you are saying we are trying to restrict us because social media. Okay, you are saying that some people are so sick, and we declare that it's dead sentence. That's wrong on its own. Because we are human. We have right to talk.
Okay, thank you for the views and thoughts that you just expressed. We'll continue with the studio session now. Roy, what are your thoughts? Hate speech?
On hate speech?
Yes.
The issue...
No, sorry, on Omoyele Sowore. Yes.
To me,
yes.
I am seriously bothered, because people are now talking because of Sowore. Are you aware that there are some persons for the past 4 years who have been, even with a valid court order, they are yet to be, Nigerians are not bothered. Nigerians are not bothered. Now, the issue of Sowore, people continue as if this is the first time we are seeing it. I am one of those, I believe over there that democracy, Nigeria cannot continue to be claiming that we are operating under democracy or we are practicing democracy. We should formulate an indigenous system of government for ourselves. You go to the Asia, you see they don't believe in this kind of democracy. They have their own system of government that is also very unique and peculiar to them. We as a people in Nigeria have challenged our scholars, to immediately develop and formulate a system that will also be peculiar to us. We cannot continue deceiving ourselves that we are practicing democracy when we are not obeying the principle of democracy. In short, we are offending the spirit of democracy, and we say we are practicing democracy until we look at those things. Because democracy, those who, when it was first founded by the Greek, it was convenient for them, and they managed it. No, there are many countries in this world that are doing marvelously well who are not practicing democracy. Therefore, Nigeria as a country, we must also now formulate a system for ourselves. I don't want that we keep on shouting that we are practicing democracy when we are far away from democracy. Because what makes it to be democracy, they are no longer there. And one of those, the issue is that free speech. Now they want to regulate our speech and say we are practicing democracy. Without the judiciary, there is no democracy. When you don't obey the judiciary, there is no democracy. And consistency, we have seen that in this part of the world. You know, and as a reason, those who are even in the legal field, I look at some of them at times and I begin to wonder that when they find themselves within the cycle of power, it appears all they know about the law immediately diminish or vanish from them. Because there is still Attorney General of the Federation who will come and defend these things, and he will also cite from the law that this is the reason why he's defending this. The president at the time informed us in this country that there are issues that have to do with national security. That as far as he's concerned, those issues are the issue he believes more than any directive order from any court. You know, why we expect the Attorney General of the Federation to immediately, because you are from a profession that are always there, then you are supposed to say this is the stand of the law. Okay. They will not be able to do that. And that's the reason why when I look at this profession, I begin to wonder. And they have created more problem for this country.
Let's take our last call on the program today. Politics Today, reaching you live on independent television and radio. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from, and go ahead with your contributions. Be as civil as possible and straight to the point. Do not cast aspersion on anyone. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Kulai Moti, calling from Motomoto in Delta State.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I want to talk on the issue of the border erosion.
Yes.
The President Association.
Okay.
Because I will use the issue of the cement in this country. Before the Jonathan came on board, Nigeria was importing cement. But he told me that before he released office that Nigeria will be exporting cement. And that's what he did. If we close the border because we secure to export cement, let us do something right. The only correct thing I think the majority is just because of price. No other thing. Even we can't, there are many people who are manufacturing this country. It's only the right of that to and that's the
obviously, the network at Ozanogogo didn't allow that code to come to a final conclusion. But very strong points that you raised, and those points are very, very valid. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the road on the program Politics Today this morning. And of course, we hope that we can bring you another fresh edition of the program. Same time, same station next week.